A women's rights group is warning a war on women will ramp up as we get closer to this year's midterm elections. A new report card from NARAL gives the nation a grade of D when it comes to protecting women's reproductive rights. NARAL says 24 states enacted 53 measures restricting women's rights last year. That includes Arkansas, North Dakota, and Texas, which banned abortion after 20 weeks. This new report comes a day after the Supreme Court declined to hear an appeal of a lower court ruling that threw out Arizona's ban on abortion after 20 weeks. I'm joined now by Democratic strategist and former Edwards Communications Director Kristan, and Kristan Hawkins is president of Students for Life. Good morning.
Good morning.
So a dozen states got a grade of A from NARAL when it comes to protecting women's reproductive rights, but more than twice as many, 25, get an F. So, Chris, are pro-choice advocates losing their battle?
Well, unfortunately, what's happened in a lot of these states, and this was a couple of cycles ago, these state legislatures went far right. And, part of the, this is, I think, sometimes the fixation we have on national politics, but, these state legislatures, these statewide races, these local races have a significant impact on women's issues across the board. So, I mean, this is, I think, a battle, and it's a significant one. But I think where the challenges for the Republican Party nationally is, and we've seen this play out now in the last two presidential elections, is if you lose women's vote by double digits, you're not going to win national office. So the Republicans, have a real problem in their hand because they keep alienating women, not just on choice issues, but on pay equity issues, on education issues. I mean, at some point, it's more than just a war on women's issues. You end up, basically losing them, for good. And that's not a recipe for electoral success.
And part of all this discussion is what has been going on in the high court. And for example, tomorrow they'll consider whether a Massachusetts law that created a 35-foot buffer zone around abortion clinic entrances violates protesters' free speech rights. Let me read you part of an editorial in the New York Times today. Quote, anti-abortion protesters may still picket, hand out leaflets, and speak freely to women outside the buffer zone. The Supreme Court should uphold this sensible law and allow women to make choices free from intimidation, harassment, or worse. Is there a point that's being made there? And I just wonder, Kristan, at some point, agree to disagree, but don't harass someone who's just made a difficult decision.
Look, the abortion law gives special rights to the Massachusetts law gives special rights to abortion vendors. This is unbelievable. On college campuses across the country, these bubble zones, these free speech zones, have consistently been struck down because they're unconstitutional. What we're seeing in Massachusetts is what we see across the country every single day. Women aren't running away from those women who are peacefully praying and offering financial support in front of the abortion facility. They're running away from those people who force them into the abortion facility. Their boyfriends and their families who won't support them and tell them abortion is their only option. They're not the enemy. Those people who are praying in front of the facilities aren't the enemy here.
These are the kinds of issues that have really spawned this whole phrase, war on women, on the Democratic side, Chris. And this new NARAL report singled out 3 of what they consider to be pro-choice champions. Texas State Senator Wendy Davis, who, of course, is running for governor. North Carolina State Representative Alma Adams, a potential congressional candidate. California Assembly Member Tony Atkins. You were talking about how you think it's going to hurt the Republicans, but will this really play a key role? Because is this going to be an election about the economy? How will women's rights realistically, Chris, play into this?
Well, it's part of a critical part of the larger narrative that defines both parties. We've seen this play out in the last few cycles where Republicans had a chance to win both in Missouri and Indiana, both races which they lost, by the way, because of inflammatory and offensive remarks they made about abortion, those Republican Senate candidates. So I think this is part of the larger, calculation that each individual voter is going to have to make in terms of which party, which candidate they think reflects their issues and their interests. And when you have, I think, one side, specifically the Republican Party, not only on choice, but on other issues that are important to women, education, pay equity, daycare and child care, those kind of issues, and not only the economic ones, and you end up alienating because you don't reflect their interests, you're not going to win their vote. And that's why it plays a key part in 2014.
Does it have to be a more civilized debate? Because, Kristan, Republican candidates like Todd Akin and Richard Murdoch imploded when it came to their comments on abortion. And lots of Republican strategists have said, we've heard this time and time again, don't go there. These are not the issues day in and day out that Americans are going to vote on. Is there a danger for candidates?
Look, being pro-life is still a winning issue. Chris's former boss, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, relied on pro-lifers to win his Senate seat, and he courted them when he was running for election. This is something that we hear all the time. Well, what Chris didn't mention is that the majority of Americans are actually pro-life. Women are pro-life. Being pro-life is not a losing issue. Isn't something you have to shy away from.
Kristan Hawkins, Chris Kofinas, thank you. And something we're going to follow. Oh, I should mention, Chris, one more thing you want to say? Somebody's birthday?
Oh, yes, it's my daughter's 7th birthday.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Alexandra.
Alexandra, happy birthday. You want to tell me what her present is? You can whisper. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. She might be watching. Thanks to both of you.
It's a very nice cake.
Thank you.
Checking the news feed this morning.